Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Dozens of Petrojam workers call in sick. 2 persons shot and killed at vigil in Sharpe Square, St. James. And later in sports, Sharpe Jackson among nominees for Female Athlete of the Year. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shimela Pullen. Here are the details. We begin with a developing story. Dozens of workers at the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam have called in sick. This is over protracted wage negotiations. Petrojam employs more than 250 workers. It's unclear the number of workers who are off the job. We will have more on this developing story in subsequent newscasts. Sharpe Square in Montego Bay, St. James was the scene of a double murder last night. The deceased have been identified as 35-year-old Jeffrey Woodstock, a fruit vendor of Mount Salem, and 27-year-old Keitania Tomlinson, a car rental operator flanker. A third person is in hospital nursing bullet wounds. According to reports, the shooting happened at a candlelight vigil about 10:15 p.m.
Out there, I light up a can with them one thing by about 10 o'clock or so, I look a bit woman ride up on bike and so on style and start shut up the crowd. But like they know who them a shot to.
You feel a remorse that the young man, the candlelight tonight would be something where to remember him, of him good deeds.
Most likely.
And everybody come out to give us strength.
Most likely, because who get shot said we are in family them.
A senior investigator told our news center that the attack was in reprisal for that killing. Persons who witnessed the incident are still in shock.
But they're in front and they're behind me, I couldn't move. I just have to stand up my father and watch you go on there. Come like I just drop protect me till everything done.
So you know run?
I know I could run my father car. The right I get a bit upon this to my father. And the thing that happened right there, so I reason to be right there to my father. So I could run now. No. Maybe man would have shot me and some have something for me, so I have to just stand up.
The police are investigating. The country needs more crime prevention programs. That position from the opposition as the country continues to be swept by a crime wave. The details in this report.
Last week, the police reported a 12% decrease in murders for the first 9 months of the year. Shootings, rape and robberies also trended down when compared to the same period in 2022. But according to PNP spokesman on national security, Senator Peter Bunting, many people are confused by the figures, given the nature of gun attacks this year.
Murders, double murders, triple and quadruple murders and shootings don't seem to accord with these statements made by the Commissioner of Police and by the High Command. This October, this month, so far is averaging about 5 murders per day. Most Jamaicans woke up this morning to the shocking news of another quadruple murder in Trelawney.
It is why he believes last year is a bad measure for the state of crime and violence right now.
What the JCF did not highlight is that last year, the comparator year, had the second highest number of murders since 2010, when there was that operation in Tivoli related to the extradition of Christopher Coke. So the 2023 statistics can be down relative to a record bad year in 2022, but still represent an objectively horrific situation currently.
He reasoned that based on the trend of around 4 murders per day, 1,400 people are likely to be victims of murder in Jamaica by the end of 2023.
A society cannot talk about good governance, about accountability, yet hide Andrew Holness's abject failure at fighting violent crime.
So what would the opposition have done differently? The answer, according to Senator Bunting, is in crime prevention programs, such as the ones the PNP government started.
They abandoned the Unite for Change program, defunded the Peace Management Initiative, phased out the Citizen Security and Justice program. Every crime prevention initiative was abandoned.
Hal Shane Burke, TVJ News.
We go to reactions now to Tuesday's announcement of a fare hike. The presidents of two taxi associations are urging the public to pay what is stipulated by the Transport Authority. It comes following reports that some taxi operators had been charging more than what was announced. Speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106, the St. James Taxi Association issued this charge to the commuting public.
If when they do their calculations and when the Transport Authority sends out the sheets with the fares and persons overcharge them, take the license plate of that vehicle and report it to the Transport Authority, and the relevant action will be taken against those persons. Because if we don't do that, if you have 3 persons out there who are doing it and nothing comes of it, it will spread. In this new dispensation, persons have to be their own guard.
In the meantime, the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services wants clarity for the over 300 sub-franchise operators under the state-owned Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC.
The JUTC has not received a fare increase, as far as I know. And if they don't, what do we do with these 300 operators? We call them sub-franchise. Will they increase their fares? So we need to have a word on that, because that could pose challenge as it did in the last time. It will pose some challenge this time around. So we want everything on board, and so persons can know when they take a sub-franchise, this is the fare they pay. When they take a private operator, this is the fare they pay.
In the meantime, Mr. Newman says he's in support of the latest clampdown on woke operators and efforts to bring order to the sector. Raquel Porter reports.
President of the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, Edgerton Newman, says the prosecution of transport operators for offences to include failure to pay outstanding traffic tickets will serve as a warning to their colleagues. But Mr. Newman warns indiscipline will continue because there is not enough public education about offences under the new Road Traffic Act.
The picking up of some persons yesterday by the team, I like that because it sends a message. And I'm sure a number of persons will be calling the courts today, because they know the operation continues. And one could say that's a part of public education, but no. We need to have those town halls to sit with operators, to tell them, because there's a myriad of things in the Road Traffic Act that need to be outlined, not just the taximen, Taximen might be in the minority. Just because we are out there in the space and everybody see the red plate coming. But motorists on a whole need to know exactly what the new road traffic speaks to. We are concerned about the space in which we operate and the lack of amenities.
Mr. Newman also believes more state agencies should be involved in Operation Streamline.
Some of the reasons why we got ticket must be also addressed in this operation. I heard it said for 1 month. No, man. It should be for 6 months ongoing, every single day. In that, we need to look at the markings on our streets. We need to look at the bus stops. We need to look at the taxi stops. We need to look at every single thing. One group missing yesterday was the National Work Agency. They need to be there. And we need to identify those spaces where the need for bus stops and put them in place.
He says the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, which authorized parking, should be part of the conversation. In the meantime, head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner Gary McKenzie, says there has been some public education on the new Road Traffic Act. ACP McKenzie says the proper use of roadways is also the responsibility of motorists and pedestrians.
We look at some of our roads, especially our highways. We have been seeing digital signs going up, informing persons as to how to use the roads and what are the do's and don'ts. The fact of the matter is that everyone themselves have to take a personal responsibility in terms of how they use the road as well. Once someone gets into a particular business, it is incumbent on them to learn about the business and apply all the best practices to ensure that they conform.
Raquel Porto, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. In a TVJ News follow-up, the more than 65 students from the Ocherius Primary School who got sick last week after ingesting ganja-laced sweets are back at school. Principal Suzette Barnes-Wilson told our correspondent the students are in high spirits. She says they have since received counseling. She further added that new measures are now in place to prevent future occurrences. It's now time for the Business Minute.
Output in the construction industry declined in the second quarter ending June. Staten says the sector fell by 0.7%. This was mainly due to reduced activities in the civil engineering group. Now that was largely influenced by lower expenditure on the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. Further afield, ExxonMobil is to buy U.S. rival Pioneer Natural Resources in an all-stock deal valued at $59.5 billion. The deal, valued at $253 a share, would be Exxon's biggest since its $81 billion purchase of Mobil Oil in 1998, years before the shale boom began. The deal is set to close in early 2024. And shares in LVMH slumped on Wednesday to their lowest level since December, after the French luxury group reported slower third-quarter sales growth, providing evidence that inflation and economic turmoil are curbing a post-pandemic spending spree. LVMH, whose labels include Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Tiffany, had reported on Tuesday a smaller than expected 9% rise in the third-quarter revenue. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report. In this evening's Health Report, we look at hand, foot and mouth disease.
Pay attention to what is happening with your children. Pay attention to any difference that you notice in your skin, the skin of your children. Pay attention to those things. And if your child has a fever, please pay attention. If your child is sick, do not send him or her to school. Please take them to the doctor first.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Use over-the-counter pain medications, drink plenty of fluids, cover mouth blisters, and rest. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In UN schools converted into shelters since the Israeli strike started on Saturday. And Lydia is no longer a hurricane. The storm made landfall in the Mexican city of Jalisco Tuesday as a Category 4 hurricane, packing winds of 140 miles per hour. But the National Hurricane Center says Lydia has since weakened to a tropical storm. The storm is expected to rapidly weaken as it continues to move throughout west central Mexico. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Jamila Maitland.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.